Good evening, my brothers and my sisters. It's been a while since we've been on, so I pray that you let people on to know that we're on tonight for Bible study. This is our winter Bible study on Thursday nights, which is our new time at 7:30. So I give you an opportunity to jump on and to get on. And so as you are coming on, if you would just share with someone else, a friend, that we are on. We're on Facebook Live and on some other things, so just need you to let people know that we are on. Okay? So do that for me. Brenda Perry, good to see you. Very good. Please let other good friends know that we are on. And please let good people of Ben and Terrace, maybe they can gather around your phone or however you are coming on tonight, let them know that we are on. So there's a way you can share it, and we're going to do that. We're going to share it and let people know that we are on. And I'll take the opportunity to do that right now myself. I know it probably will. People will be getting used to seeing us again. It's been a while, so we pray that they will get on and get on with us. So they share it with some people and let them know that we are on. And then while you are doing that, I want to express my gratitude and my thanks for all of you who have been so kind during this time of bereavement for me and my family. Thank you for just your kindness of letting other people sending flowers and just being kind, letting people know. I want to thank you for your cards and thank you for your letters. Thank you for some of you even gave us some monetary support, and we're grateful for that too as well. And some of you found other ways to sort of be a blessing, So we are so grateful to that. So thank you for being with us and helping us. So I want you to take this opportunity to share, as I said, share this with somebody. We're going to get started here in a minute. I'm just trying to see if I can get some more people on here who perhaps didn't get the message that we will be back on today. We'll be gearing up, and so I want you to let people know that we are on. And also, while you're doing it, thank all of you too for your support of our ministry, of our church, doing this this whole ordeal. We're still in the midst of this pandemic. Hopefully, we're getting a handle on things. We're getting better. But it's certainly been a very difficult time for not only us, but in the world. And so we have to really hold each other up and take care of each other and just really help each other out. So as you're inviting people to do that, you can go into the bottom of your page. You have a Facebook page, and there's a way you go down to the bottom. It's very easy. You go down, and there's a like, comment, and there's a share. And you push share, and then you start to, things will come up in groups and messages, and usually under message is where you can share to people that you know. So take that opportunity to do that, and hopefully, and then give us about 2-3 more minutes, and then we're going to have to get rolling. We're going to have to get rolling, yeah. And also, don't forget our service on Sundays at 9. Usually we are on Facebook Live, we're on YouTube. We are on Twitter now, because Twitter used to be Periscope. So we're on that. So you can check us out. So take the opportunity to do that. And I see some of you coming on. Elder Jackie, I see that you're here. Thank God for you. And Miss Perry, thank God for you. And while you all are coming on, I'm just trying to give people an opportunity to catch up to us. I know we haven't been on in quite a while. And so I do want to give people an opportunity to catch up with us. So if you can take a moment to just share with people, you go down to the bottom of your screen, let them know that we are on, and maybe they will jump on with us. So take opportunity to do that. And that's what I'm doing now. Just sharing with some folks that we are on and popping. So, so do that. All right. So, all right. So listen, tonight we are endeavoring to jump into deep end of the pool, let's say. Blessings. So thank you so much. The deep end. We got to go in deep. Sometimes it's easier to stay in the shallow end and play it safe, but sometimes you have to jump in the deep end, get in the deep waters, and see how they flow for you. You know how it is. You can never really get a grasp of things unless you're willing to really kind of risk and go out there and do something. So listen, I am Dr. Lewis Tait. I'm pastor of the Village Church. Those of you may be joining us for your first time. This is what we call our winter Bible class sessions. And it will go for this time about 8 weeks, and I'll give you the dates. Again, those of you just jumping on, I want to thank you for all the kindness you showed my mom, to my mother while she was living, and also while she transitioned to our family. And just want to thank all of you who just were just tremendous and still are praying for my family and praying for me. I really appreciate it, and just the support you have given to my family and to me and to the Village Church. I want to just thank all of you for your kindness. All right, that being said, I'll give you a few notes, and I'll hopefully will reiterate this so you can remember in case you're not jotting down. And also, when you're on Facebook, you can also give comments, and I certainly would love to receive your comments and hear about your comments. You can also, give thumbs up, and you give all kind of emojis in terms of whatever you're feeling or sensing. You can do that as well. So that is something you can do. You certainly can invite other people. And I encourage you to take notes. This is not a midweek service. This is actually a study. This is study is the highest form of praise that one can give, because what it suggests is that you really want to know what God is trying to do and what God is up to. So we want you to sort of be with us. And you have to be able to kind of refer back to things, think about things, and be critical. Sometimes I think that some of us are afraid to look at our faith and what we say we believe in a critical way, so we kind of understand what it is that we say we believe and what it is that we think that is going on in relationship to the God we say we trust. Good to see you, Joanne and Deacon Charlie. Now, I want you to do me a favor. Please invite your friends and family, whoever, onto this Bible study. You go down to the bottom of your page. I'm kind of deliberating a little times. I know some of y'all take a little while to jump on. This is Thursday, a new night, and invite them. I know Deacon Charlie is one of our wonderful deacons, and he invites a lot of people on his phone. So take the opportunity to do that. And tell them to, if they're on YouTube, we want them to subscribe to our YouTube page. Please take the opportunity to do that and just be a part of us. So let's pray, then we're going to get started. God, thank you for this night, this time of study. Thank you for those who are joining us. I praise and thank you for just being gracious and good God. We also pray for our country and people who are just struggling, whether it's with COVID, whether it's with so many different things that they have to filter through, a lot of things that are not truthful. Whether it's about the vaccine or wearing a mask or just a myriad of things. We pray for not only our country, we pray for our neighbors in Mexico, Guatemala, and El Salvador, and Canada, people right here in this, what we call this Western Hemisphere. And we just pray, God, for even those in the world. God, there's so much that's happening. Help us to realize that we are actually citizens of the world. And so we pray that we have compassion, that we will work on not being xenophobic, that we will work on dealing with ethnocentrism, where one group thinks it's better or superior than any other group, that we'll understand that really isn't God's way. That's what humanity or humans have done. Bless our time together tonight. This is my prayer. Amen. All right. So for the next 8 weeks, we'll be looking at, this is called the CRT Bible class. CRT means Critical Race Theology. And we'll be looking at this question, trying to answer what's really going on. So we're looking at a number of things in our culture and our society through the lenses of what we say or think that we believe in. It's important that we understand, because you can't bury your head in the sand when there's so much around you and I that's going on that affects not only my life or your life, but your children, your grandchildren, people you're connected to, and it affects everything that we deal with in terms of how policies are written, the laws that we have to obey, sometimes things we don't even know about that's affecting us. For instance, most of us we like Facebook, or we like these sort of social apps that we have, whether it's Instagram or Twitter, whatever we may be using. But we because it's free, we never thought about how it's being used or what was it being used for, our information. And so now we're starting to find out, some of us, there's things called algorithms that have been set up to do various things, from advertising to actually making sort of negativity flow throughout the world and the country. For instance, you ever shopped one day and looked for something? Maybe you were looking for, ladies, a nice purse, one of those expensive purses, or a pair of shoes or something. Whatever you were shopping for, looking for, you were Googling for, and the next minute you know everything. And then you would go on to say something popped up in your email and it had that purse. You probably wonder, well, how did that get there? It's called algorithms. It kind of just it's taking all these snapshots of you, and then it puts things in front of you that it thinks you may like. So here are the dates that we're going to be meeting next couple months. In October, we'll meet the 14th, the 21st, and the 28th, every Thursday at 7:30. So let your friends know. Every Thursday at 7:30 will be the CRT Bible class. And we're talking about what's really going on. And of course, if you have any questions or things you want to pose to me, you can always put those in the chat, or maybe on the line where your Facebook is. Or you can just send me an email through the church's website, the Village DC .church. You can do that easily. And there is the website right there. You can send information right there to me, and I will get it. All right. So we'll meet on the 14th, 21st, and 28th of October. Then in November, we'll be off on the 4th because that's my birthday. Yeah, November 4th will be my birthday. Then we'll meet on the 11th and the 18th, and then we'll be off again for Thanksgiving, which is on the 25th. Then we'll come back on December the 2nd, the 9th, and our last class will be for the winter session on the 16th. And that's 8 classes during this particular fall Bible class. Normally we have 12 but we had a lot of things going on that prohibited us from meeting as we normally do. So, and also, if you listen to our broadcast on Sundays, you'll get this information again, and we'll also find a way we'll have it posted on our website as well. So, let me say this is a disclaimer, so you'll understand this from the beginning, so people won't, tune in and think they are just at some regular, Bible study where they're learning little Bible stories and recanting stuff they've already heard. This Bible study may not be for everybody because if you're not interested in thinking critically about your faith, about the Christian faith, Bible, theology, in your own life, then it's understandably you probably don't want to listen or tune in. But I think there are people who are interested. And theology is just a nice, cute word. It just means, how God is understood, how you understand God. But also sometimes we read other people's theologies and we adopt them as our own without understanding. Do we really actually believe that? Do we actually understand God to be that? And is it consistent with our own, belief systems, and also sometimes the cultures that we have grown up in? And then sometimes we have to be critical of it because sometimes the theology that perhaps is antithetical to how really we understand God to be. And so we that's what we're going to deal with in terms of this class. Because in particular, oh, my man Kenny, so good to see you, man. I'm glad you joined us tonight. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. How's your family? Hope everybody's well. But the thing is, we want to talk about, because it's important in terms of, I know some of us grew up in church and we probably never had these discussions because most of the times we just talked about the Bible as if it was neutral or it had nothing to do with the things that we were experiencing. And basically we were taught to be saved and have this personal relationship with God. And as if nothing around us, that God had nothing to say about it, or our experiences with God didn't contribute to how, then we understood how we should be in the world. Some of us, we really over spiritualized Jesus in such a way that Jesus became this sort of being that had no power at all, that was just engulfed by a sort of an American sort of Christianity that took away what he was really about, what he had to endure. So that's the things that we're going to discover and just talk about. And I pray that you give it an opportunity and ask me questions. I think that one of the challenging things that most of us have, at least me, is that we, as Christians, sometimes we don't talk about and critically think about our faith. We listen to these popular ministers on television or social media, and not saying that everything they're saying is wrong, and I'm not claiming to be all right, but some things we ought to be questioning and saying, why is it that way? Hi, Felicia. How are you doing? We are located in Washington, D.C. Glad you are joining us tonight. And so tonight, listen, this is very important for me. I've been working at this a long time, and now I'm at the point in my life. Now it's like I'm going to tell you things that I've been working on for a long time. I'm not going to be trying to hold it back or sugarcoat it. Or there are people who know things, and a lot of times they don't share with because they say, "Oh, they're not ready for it." But my thing is, when are we ever going to be ready for it? When? Why are our preachers and our pastors so keen on keeping us in the dark? Or perhaps some of them don't know themselves, and that's not necessarily a bad thing if you're willing to learn, if you're willing to open up your mind and just think about things. So here we go. Let's just talk about this. Patience, good to see you. Let's just talk about this Bible study is called Critical Race CRT Critical Race Theology Bible Class, and we're going to be looking at this question: what's really going on? Okay, so now most of you, at least if you haven't heard, it's been all this stink about critical race theory. You've heard it. The politicians, they really are going at it. It's like they have to find something. When you're used to building a platform of untruths and keeping people in the dark, you have to continue to kind of do that. So why would you want to keep out information that people need to read? So, you have governors like in Florida and Texas and all over the country saying, they're taking out certain books, even books about Rosa Parks. You got to ask yourself, why do you don't want your children or all children to know about the story of what happened during the civil rights movement? But more importantly, why is it that you don't want them to know the history, the whole history of this country, what happened in 1619 up until now? And it's not a matter of necessarily shaming or guilting people, but it's a matter of engaging so that we understand, okay, this is some of the things that have happened. And then once we can engage and once we can be honest and acknowledge, yes, these are the things that happen, then we can go about correcting them instead of putting them under the rug or saying, I don't want my kids to feel a certain way. I mean, but what about other kids? When you keep telling lies about history and culture and all kinds of things, it's a way in which I think that we can all really find a way to really learn about our collective American history in a way in which it becomes liberating. Yes, it's very difficult to have some of these conversations, but it's got to happen. So here we go. So when we talk to some about why the Christian symbol. This is something I just want to start off tonight. The Christian symbol, most of you know, is the cross. And so, do you ever ask yourself, how in the world has this Christian symbol, this cross that many of us wear around our necks? I don't have one right now, but I usually would wear an ankh, which is an Egyptian symbol of the cross, which means life. Has an orb on top, and then has a sort of what we call a pole, or some would call it even the phallic symbol in the middle. So it's a beautiful looking cross, but it's called the ankh. And so, but you got to ask yourself, why don't we? Some Christians have taken this cross, this symbol of Christianity, and why we have allowed it, particularly in America, to be misappropriated by groups like the Ku Klux Klan, and the white church has not demanded is disavowed. That means they would say, listen, you all cannot use this cross, and and we won't stand for it. Why is it that the Ku Klux Klan has not been ruled a terrorist group in America? It's very interesting. All right. So, but that the Klan, the cross, is a major symbol for them. In ways they use it to terrorize, and they have in the past terrorized black folks by burning them. But they also, they have, if you ever read some of their rhetoric and read some of the things that they say and they believe in, they take it right out of the Christian Bible, as they say. But the interesting is that when there have been some black folks who've been fighting for years for the symbols of racism and symbols of hatred and what we call and also the Confederacy, which a lot of people try to say that the Confederacy was something special or something wonderful, but it was not. Maybe for the people who were celebrating the Confederacy, it was great for them. But for black folks and many of my ancestors, Confederacy, they represented slavery and degradation and represented oppression. It was awful. And so what happened is they had this Confederate flag, which actually came along later, but it's a symbol of white supremacy and racism. And if you notice, a lot of these symbols and even the statues, many black folks and even whites demanding that they come down. Why? Because symbols are important and they tell a story. If a country is moving towards supposed to be a country of liberation and freedom and all of these things they talk about, then how in the world would you have a statue anywhere or a school named after a Confederate general or statues or any of those things, or Confederate flags flying over the capitals? Well, we've noticed those symbols are coming down. Now, that's not the be all and end all of everything, because we know that sometimes people can change their clothes, and Ku Klux Klan can put on people with that Klan mentality will put on policemen's uniforms and can walk in the halls of Congress with suits on, but the same mentality that's changed the way they dress, and now necessarily not wearing hoods. They just change and put on a necktie and a three-piece suit or a two-piece suit or a dress, and but the same kind of philosophy. But the thing is just how, you know, some, particularly white evangelical churches, continue to allow this symbol, this symbol, this cross, which is a very powerful symbol in Christianity because it really represents where Jesus was hung and lynched. Very powerful symbol. Also, remember the cross it was Roman, right? It was a Roman way of dealing with dissidents. Dissidents are people who the Romans thought that were against their government. Remember, Jesus wasn't killed. We've taken this narrative and we really twisted it around and said he died so we can go to heaven. No, he died as a dissident, a political prisoner. All right, he was murdered. So, and it was brutal. Yeah, and people say that was the cost. We'll talk about that another time. But we need not get away from the brutalization of Jesus and why he was killed, because the Roman government, and of course there were some who were part of his own sort of ethnic group, the Jews, who didn't help, didn't alleviate the situation. But the Roman government, they're the ones who had the power actually to put someone on the cross. And if you read history, it wasn't you don't go on a cross just for anything. He was on the cross because he was considered a political prisoner. He was a threat. All right, and so that's what happened. And we know in America in so many ways, a lot of times, Black folks who have talked about bringing people together, whether it's poor whites or native indigenous people, whether you call them LGBTQIA or people that have been sort of pushed out and marginalized, and then bringing those groups together. A lot of times they haven't lived to really talk too much about it. Now, Fred Hampton was one of the examples, Dr. King, and the countless number of women who have been shut up when you try to organize and bring people together to do something that the government refuses to do in terms of equity and justice for everybody. So when you start to look at religion, and particularly Christianity in America, it has played a significant role in the sort of foundation and also keeping alive of sort of racism. And I want us to understand something, and I want to read something, because some people will not take things from me because I'm a Black man. Oh, you're saying it because you're Black. But there are other people some of them white and other people, Latinos, who also are talking about this whole subject. And so Tiffany Pewitt, she's an adjunct professor of religious and theological studies at St. Edward's University, and she wrote a very insightful article on critical race theory, and it's not long at all. It's entitled "Critical Race Theory is an Important Tool to Better Understand How Religion Operates in America." Remember, she's a white woman. Here's some of what she wrote. She says the theory, which she's referring to as critical race theory, and I call it critical race theology. That's what we're moving towards. Comprises a set of concepts that frame racism as structural. Now, if you're taking notes, put the word structural, because that's where people they don't want to deal with what's involved with the structure. So she said comprises a set of concepts that frame racism. That means it talks about racism and what it is it's doing and has done from a structural standpoint, all right, rather than simply expressed through personal discrimination. Now, that's part of the big part of the argument, because some people, they want to talk about racism on a personal level, and basically it's not that, because people can call you names and racial epithets and all kinds of different things personally. And yes, it may affect you, it may bother you, but the biggest issue is when it's structural. That means it's in the system, it's part of the banking system, the education, the political system. It's in there. And so, but they didn't just say it. We'll find out as we study that these scholars, mainly Black scholars and women and men, they did the hard work, the scholarship. The politicians, a lot of times, they're saying things, but they're not helping you to think through, because they're just using some snippet, or they just putting everything down. If somebody upset about something, it's critical race theory. It just It's just solely not true. So anyway, she goes on to say, scholars point to racial discrepancies in educational achievement, economic and employment opportunities, and in the criminal justice system as evidence of how racism is embedded in the U.S. institutions. All right, it's embedded. All right, but as its critics tell it, this is what she writes: critical race theory is a divisive ideology that has infiltrated classrooms and needs to be stopped. And it's very interesting because most of the people haven't read any of the scholars and know nothing about their arguments and what they are talking about from any level. It's really funny. By and large, such depictions of critical race theory are inaccurate, misconstrued, and perhaps at times even intentionally so. But they have nonetheless made critical race theory a cultural war issue. Religious voices, particularly among white evangelical Christians, were among the earliest and loudest in calling for critical race theory to be stopped. Conservative evangelical bloggers warned against the supposed dangers of the theory and infiltrated the church back in 2018. And then she goes on to write, rhetoric aside, she says, it's worth noting what critical race theory actually is. So please pay attention to this. A complex body of scholarship. That means that people are actually studying it, researching it. And so there's evidence that it exists because they've done the research, right? And body of scholarship that reflects an efforts of legal scholars. These are legal scholars who started this to analyze how race functions in American society. As legal scholars, Kimberly Crenshaw, who talks about intersectionality. And intersectionality is just like, for instance, if you're a black woman and you happen to be a queer black woman, not only do you experience perhaps racism and discriminatory things that happen to you because you are queer, but because you're a woman and that you're black. So they all sort of intersect. Would mean they all, so you just can't talk about her being a black woman. You've also got to talk about her being a woman and also her being queer. So, they all kind of work together. So, and that's what intersectionality really kind of deals with, is how things sort of come together. And all of us, whether you're talking about a person's ethnicity or just their life, the history of people, there's intersectionality in everybody's life because you're dealing with a lot of different things that actually come together. But in these particular writings, they're talking about how phenomena or how we live, particularly in this culture and other cultures as black people, and how things affect us, particularly when this race is born or discriminatory in its nature. So Kimberly Crenshaw is one person, Neil Katanda, Gary Peeler, and Kendall Thomas explain in their introduction to a key collection of writings on the topic. It explores how a regimen of white supremacy and its subordination of people of color have been created and maintained in America. And she mentions them, but also I want to mention, because she didn't mention this in honor, but Derek Bell, who was a professor at one point of law at Harvard University, who actually resigned because they would not, Harvard at the time would not hire a African-American woman scholar and give her tenure. So his protest was, he had been there for several years, is that he resigned, which is huge because you have tenure, it's like you're at the top of the heap. But he started to write and research, and one of his books was called Faces at the Bottom of the Well, something you should think about. That's Derek Bell, Faces at the Bottom of the Well. All right. And so as a scholar of religious studies, she said, I frequently use critical race theory as a tool to better understand how religion operates in American society. While critical race theorists initially focused on how race has been embedded in our legal system, the theory can also help us to think about how race is entrenched in religious institutions. It helps move beyond the idea of religions being primarily a matter of individual belief to seeing religious institutions and identities as shaped by a larger social structures and movements. In other words, what she's saying, that the faith institutions, particularly Christianity, has been shaped by a certain kind of a thinking. It hasn't been colorblind. Hasn't been. There's nothing. There's no such thing as neutral. And I have people in my family, and I love them. But sometimes people think that because they have gotten their tradition or their understanding from a certain place, that it must be right. And unfortunately, as we continue to grow and develop, what is difficult for a lot of African Americans, Black folks in this cultural context, is that we sort of have been taught that the white man's ice is always colder. Now, that's just a saying. But what it means is sometimes we're unwilling when our own bring us something, whether it's scholarship, whether it's business, whatever it is, we don't think it's good unless it's being done by somebody that's white. And it's very tragic, and not only in our culture, but also in Caribbean culture as well. And that's why some people are more willing to accept white leadership, Black folks, than they are to accept their own people as leaders. And they come up with all these different reasons why they can't. And the things that they're sharing with you, just like that doesn't, it really doesn't hold water, because you're turning over your life and allowing somebody to lead you that really, sometimes in a general sense, not necessarily that particular person, that hadn't really cared about your humanity or the humanity of your people historically and in this context. So we'll be dealing with that. We'll be looking at that from certain scriptures and trying to understand, what it is that God is working on us. Right, and this is very good. I'm glad to hear your comments are coming up. I'm really glad to see them. Absolutely right, Elder Jack. Let me share that with everybody. We've been taught to hate ourselves. That's called self-negation. We taught to hate ourselves, and what we do is not important. We've been taught to think about heaven and the hereafter. And I'm saved now. I'm going to heaven when I die. Yet still, you could be living 70 years, or like my mom, who lived 82 years, and yet and still there are discriminatory, there are racist things that are happening to you, and you're not dealing with them at all. And so that becomes a problem. I'm sorry about that. Trying to call me in the midst of my Bible study. I gotta learn how to turn that off. So sometimes we fail to understand that religion, particularly Christianity, has been used to subjugate us. That means to oppress us. Don't you notice some of the names of the ships that our ancestors came over on? One of the names was called Jesus. Now, don't you understand the people who call themselves pilgrims, the first persons who some of the first colonies up in Massachusetts? They ain't talking about the South in 1619, but those persons were sort of God-fearing Protestants, and what that actually meant and they did things in the name of God, and they justified what they did with indigenous native people we refer to as Indians, but they are really First Nation people. We never even talk about what happened to those people. How did they disappear? Their extermination. What was that all about? How did that happen? And so, and not saying that it's not about shaming. I mean, of course, that's people may feel shame, but it's not about shaming. It's about engagement. So when you engage and you acknowledge that, yes, this has happened, then you can say, you know what? We want to make sure not only Black folks, but white or whatever ethnic group they are, we don't want this to happen again. You talk to any Jewish person who knows, they all know about the Holocaust. And one of the things they always say, this will never happen again. and we definitely want our Jewish brothers and sisters to join us, because they understand when you take theories of hatred and anti-Semitism and anti-Black things, and you use it as a way of supporting sort of religious tradition. We talk about Islamic, and we say Islamic extremism. We've got Christianity extremism that is racist at its core. It's not that Christianity is bad. It is what has been done with it and to it in the name of God, but mainly in the name of white supremacy and racism. And it's really not about God. It's about power. It's about holding on to power. How in the world can the white evangelical church or any black pastor sit back, and whether in the state of Florida or Georgia or Texas or any of these states, and not be at the Capitol talking, protesting themselves, not just black folks, because these persons are in their churches and saying you will not do voter suppression because that is ungodly and it's oppressive. And don't tell me about some election or something that there was cheating going on. You know, was no cheating going on. And if there was cheating going on, why are you suppressing a group of people's votes? Answer that. And is that God? So that's why it's necessary. I'm going on a little longer. If y'all give me about 4 more minutes, we'll be finished in 15 after than normal, because it took me a while to get y'all on here. Y'all a little late getting on tonight. It's 7:30 next week, and we'll make sure that we get out in good timely fashion, half an hour. But just give me like 4 minutes and we'll be done. All right, thanks. I love these comments. Please keep them coming. Please keep them coming. And please make sure that you share with your friends and let them know that we are on. And 7:30 every Thursday night. This is what we're going to be talking about for the next 8 weeks. Critical Race Bible class. We're talking about what's really going on. So when you hear all of this chattering about the critical race theory, I want you to understand what is really happening, and so that you are not in the dark. Like, you don't know what's really. You don't just be going, "Oh, this critical race theory is bad." It's not bad. When scholars have looked at how discriminatory and racist practice have evaded the legal system, educational system, employment, housing for years, and it's absolutely true. You call it a theory. Theory doesn't mean that it's not true. What it's saying, this is a body of information that's put forth how we can look at things. That's why it becomes a theory. We learn that. I'm learning that in social work, in my social work classes. And the theory doesn't mean that that's not true. It is just a way of how you look at or examine information. So what we'll look at too is that when you go back and look at housing covenants in Minnesota, you'll see how the government was involved in helping to support and put those covenants in place. Covenants just meant the housing, it couldn't be sold to Negroes, and at times it couldn't be sold to Jews. And also how redlining went on all across this country. Redlining is a way in which neighborhoods were redlined. That means they couldn't get any insurance. The people couldn't get money for mortgages, and many of these were black neighborhoods. And so this is important for us to understand. Things like this can't go on without the support of the church, particularly the white church. And unfortunately, a lot of black churches, particularly pastors even today, who mimic and preach and teach a white evangelicalism. They're so into being evangelical without understanding, okay, what does that mean besides, be evangelical? Yeah, we go out and you share your faith. But when it gets entangled with white evangelicalism, you have to explain it or separate yourself from it and say, look, that's not what we're doing here. At least explain to people, no, we have to look at the culture. We have to look at how people are being treated. We have not just the personal thing, but the system. The system. Because if you deal with the systems, people will get more in line. If people know that they will, that the system is being changed, because also people have to make up the system. You go to a judicial system and you notice all kinds of things that have been going on for years. Who gets the stiffest sentences, who gets more leniency, and it's not, and people, we want to make up 14% of the population, but then we make up 70-80% of all the prisons. Something is wrong with that. We don't have a crime gene either, because people will make you think that, black folks are evil. That's why they're in prison. But let me stop there for the night, because it's 15 after. And I promise we'll always be within some kind of time frame. But listen, I want to thank all of you for joining tonight. Listen, and if you want to contribute to us during the week and to our Bible study, you can certainly make a gift to our church of any amount of money you want to help us support the ministry of the village. And we are in the business of doing ministry, and we do need your support. So I want to thank you in advance for anything that you want to give. Please, next week, promise me that you will send out at least 20 invites through your social media and let people know that we are on. We are on at 7:30 And this is what we're talking about, and they can be involved. And so please do that for me. Thank you again. Don't forget to join us on Sunday at 9 a.m. And we're showing, and we'll re-show the broadcast at 11. For those of you who may miss it, it'll come back on again at live. But don't, if you can get on at 9, do that. Do that for us, all right? So have a wonderful and blessed evening. Thank you so much. I'm Dr. Louis Tait, and I'm coming from the Village Church. God bless.